What's up, everybody? I am Kay Marie.
I am Lou.
I'm Mary.
And we are
Murked in the Midwest.
When I got locked up in the Army, and then especially when I got locked up in 1981, I knew I should never be let out again. I didn't know how to act around other people, and I was never taught how to make friends and keep them. When an inmate says he doesn't want out, I hope that somebody listens. And the speaker of this quote is Mr. David Mouse, aka Crazy Dave.
David Edward Moss was born April 5th, 1954 in Conleysville, Pennsylvania, to parents George and Eva Moss. When he was 7, Moss' father left his mother, and the divorce followed that. George was orphaned at the age of 12 and was raised in a foster home. Eva Moss was mentally ill and diagnosed as psychotic, whatever that means.
Parents of the year.
I mean, my God. Now, his mother says that David seemed to be born with the need to hurt people. And I don't really know. What does that mean?
I don't know.
How can a baby be born with the need to hurt people? Would it hurt you giving birth?
He bit my nipple during breastfeeding.
That
happens. That happens.
That's normal. When he was 9, he set fire to his brother's bed. Now
damn.
that's
a little
much. I mean, that's worse. Who was the one that set the kitchen on fire?
Tiffany.
Okay.
He
took it up. He said, kitchen, hold my beer.
Bed.
Fire. I wonder, was he in it?
Look at my eyes. Roll them.
Later that year, David tried to drown his brother at the Humboldt Park Lagoon, pinning him under the water, his mother said. So he was trying to kill his brother.
What did the brother do?
Exist.
That's usually how it is.
So his brother remembers watching Moss, and then just a boy used to play or use a baseball bat to beat the life out of a squirrel for fun.
Oh my God.
That's the first sign.
Well, don't they say generally it's bedwetting, then it goes from bedwetting to something else?
I don't think I've ever heard the bed. I've heard the bedwetting when it comes to like those who are victims of molestation and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Maybe we should look that up.
We should look
and
that
include
up.
that.
We'll include it later. We'll let you know in the notes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he beat the squirrel to death for fun, and at the age of 9,
wasn't somebody else that beat a dog with a bat?
But he told his parents that the dog fell. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who was that?
Was
that Dennis?
No. That was your Captain PP.
Oh, Captain PP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Corporal PP.
Yes. Corporal PP. Sorry, we got the title wrong.
Because we cannot mix it up.
Not Captain, Corporal, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Corporal PP cannot be confused with Pervert PP.
No, they are two very different people. They are their own individuals.
That enjoy piss? Okay. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
I digress. So, however, Eva was described by social workers as disturbed, psychotic, functioning marginally, needy, and narcissistic.
Yep.
So maybe he was learning these behaviors from home.
Well, at the age of 9, she did have him confined to a mental institution.
Okay. I mean, maybe she was like, I'm going, you should go too. I mean, if they diagnosed her as psychotic, she was a woman, her husband had left, there's not many options for you left at those years, because what was this? This was what, 19... So we're talking about 1960s, roughly?
Yep, 1960s.
Yeah, she was going to an institution. She was getting there, I'm sure. We'll get to it. Oh, hold on.
Next.
We're there. She spent a month in the mental hospital in Pennsylvania.
Only a month.
Yeah. Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't enough, clearly. A report on Moss later said that the institution he had been confined to was filled with children who were often placed there because the family members were mentally ill and couldn't or wouldn't take care of them.
Could you imagine, instead of your parent going, I can't take care of you, dropping you off at an orphanage, they say, I'm taking you to a mental institution.
That's actually insane.
That's wild.
And the fact that these professionals would take them.
And they knew. They knew. They knew.
At the institution, staff felt that Moss's mother had dumped him there.
Mhm.
Staff did not see any of the behaviors that Eva had mentioned: lying, stealing, out of control behaviors. Those were the things that she listed that were his problems.
Mhm.
And when asked, she could not be specific about what the troubles were that he was causing at home, only that she just didn't want him there.
Yeah.
So I can't specifically say that he's done anything wrong. I don't know why she didn't list setting the bed on fire or drowning the little boy, but she didn't mention that stuff. I can't really say. I just know I don't want to bother.
Yeah.
Okay. Mom of the year. So, anyways, continuing, his brother also says that he remembers being molested by Moss.
No, remembers Moss being molested. His brother says that he remembers like witnessing David being molested at an early age. It doesn't say by who. It basically just paints this picture that David just really had a childhood.
But really, so why didn't his mama report that? Because I'm sure the little brother was telling it all. This is wild. Okay. So, anyways, after that, he left the hospital. He went to live in a children's home. While there, at just 13 years old, he was a victim of unwanted sexual advances by other boys. And at 13, when he was at this home, which was 3737 North Mozart Street, he was approached by another boy who wanted to have sex with him. And these are his writings, so these are his reports of what happened. And so this little boy approaches him to have sex with him. Moss didn't want to, but the boy threatened to tell others that he was in a state mental hospital as like a tactic. And so he said that he was kissed by the boy, but it left him feeling ashamed and feeling that continued to haunt him through time.
Yeah, that's what he writes in his diaries. He's like all he did was let the boy kiss him, and that alone left him feeling like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for the language.
I know. Okay, so in 1969, Moss attacked a boy. He wrote in his diary, in a scenario that would be replayed throughout his life, he choked the boy named Eddie while they were playing. For no reason at all, I started choking him. I told him I was sorry, and he said it was okay. Moss wrote. Eddie was the first person I hurt. I beg to differ. I would like to talk to your little brother. But anyway, there would be others. And at 15, Moss choked a boy named Daniel with a rope while the two were watching television. Oh,
could you imagine just watching cartoons?
First of all, I wouldn't watch TV with nobody else. Get away from me. Ain't that funny? No. I couldn't stop, and I had no reason to do this to him. I told him this was. I told myself this is enough, and I quit. And then I let go of the rope, and Danny fell to the floor. He wrote. It was like I was trapped inside myself, and someone else was trying to kill Daniel, and I couldn't stop. As a young adult, Moss worked in construction with his uncle. And now, wait a minute, why couldn't the uncle take him? Why was he in the straight freaking institution? Anyway, he worked with his uncle in Georgia, in Wrightsville, Georgia. He was a skilled worker, but eventually got fired because he crashed a company truck. I mean, one little crash was one little crash. He was probably
it was just a little crash.
He was probably doing other stuff. He was probably choking some people at work. What you say to me?
There was no point.
What you say to me?
Hey David, you were late clocking in. What?
Okay, so anywho, he crashed the company truck. They had to let him go. Cost him too much money. He tried to go back home to live with his mother, but she did not want him there because he had already tried to set his brother on fire, tried to drown his brother, and then he had threatened. Oh, wait a minute. She threatened him with the.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, y'all. She threatened him with a damn knife. I'm done. This whole family sucks. Except for the little brother. Okay, after his mom threatens him over a lovely little conversation with a knife,
He's like, I don't want you in my home.
she was like, I'm so sorry. My bad.
I
I just don't want you here. She didn't have a change of heart, honey. She was just like, I'm sorry.
Maybe that was a little much. I shouldn't have attacked you with a knife.
I went a little too far.
I just didn't want you here.
You just can't come here. No David shall pass. Okay.
Thanks, Mom.
So his mother took him to the Army recruiter at the age of 18, and he enlisted in the Army. He got basic training at Fort Lewis and AIT at Fort Ord in 1972, and he was stationed in Frankfurt, Germany. He served as a cook and was an able serviceman. He was a keen bowler. Oh, Frank was good at bowling. He averaged 297. That's a phenomenal bowler. Because I know this because me as a bowler, I bowl like 90, not 290.
I bowl about score.
Yeah,
105.
Girl, and that's on a good day.
Good day.
I gotta be drinking. It's gotta be feeling real easy going. But if I'm focused, Lord help
before
us.
my carpal tunnel, I could get to like 2.
You know what?
That's what we're gonna blame it on. It was the
You know
carpal
what?
tunnel.
No, it wasn't. I know what it was. If my mama wouldn't have permed my hand with her,
Listen, if I hadn't had them glasses,
man,
I would have been able to bowl real good. Anyway, so he was really good, and he won numerous awards and prizes in his Army bowling league. So he had some success in the Army.
Yeah,
he just had a horrible home life.
Yes, he did.
The first victim was really the damn bat. No, the squirrel that he beat with the bat.
Yeah.
Oh, squirrel.
I can imagine somebody like
I don't
Army
think they had a
animals.
funeral for the squirrel.
I don't get it because that's like animals are so sweet.
Not gonna lie, I hate squirrels.
Squirrels scare me. So,
they scare me.
Did I ever tell you guys about my reoccurring dream where I got chased by a giant squirrel?
No. Oh God!
I was like Thumbelina size. I was very scared of squirrels for a very long time. But they're still sweet animals just in general. Unless you're doing something that is pissing them off, they aren't innately like, I'm going to harm you.
My uncle was attacked by squirrels and lost his leg.
Oh, damn.
What?
The events are unrelated, but both those things did happen.
What kind of damn beast squirrel?
What y'all got going on over there?
That shit together. That was good.
I'm just saying.
Please, you need to freaking go on the live and record that shit.
We are currently recording, so they know about your dream.
Oh no! You can't tell me. Oh God.
Anyways,
I can't even say, you guys, to that. What was the cause? No, I was not out here attacking squirrels. I was very scared. I used to be scared of rabbits too. But I'm just, I'm digressing. Whatever. Let's get back to the story.
Anyway. So while stationed in Germany, that was a brief commercial.
Commercial break.
While stationed in Germany in 1974, David killed 13-year-old James McClister. He was the child of American expats and was court-martialed and was convicted of manslaughter and larceny. He claimed the boy's death was the result of an accident on a moped he had stolen. David was sentenced to 4 years in prison at Fort Leavenworth. He requested not to be paroled, but was released in 1977 despite his wishes. He said, keep me in. Don't let me out. And they said, get out. Get out.
It's the Army. They cheap. They said, you'll be fine.
So in 1983, David wrote that he was happy to be held in the disciplinary barracks at Fort Leavenworth. Quote, the people there thought I was crazy because I wanted to stay, but I did not think I was crazy. I was happy there, and I was not hurting anyone. I was scared to go back there in the real world. I cried so much that all I wanted was to stay there.
Can you imagine how terrible you are inside to want to stay in Leavenworth? You know that's supposed to be like one of the worst
Yeah.
military prisons,
Yeah.
and you're like, leave me in hell, please. I think I'll
This
stay
is
here.
great. This is where I belong.
Cozy.
Nah.
Yes, this is cozy.
So,
Warm.
but here's the thing, and I know you're gonna love this part, because the Army released him and put him on a plane to where? O'Hare. They
I'm so
sent
sick of
his
them.
ass to Chicago.
I'm sick of
Same
them.
way they did with Andrew. They knew that
I'm
man
so
had
sick of
problems and sent him to the Midwest.
Because
Aw,
they know
shit.
it. That's the part. That's how you know they don't give a F.
None whatsoever.
They're like, oh, screw the public. He's just not our problem anymore. We don't care. Bye.
Bye. Drop him off in Chicago. So in 1979, in his apartment in Chicago, he actually stabbed a friend in his apartment while he was sleeping. He was tried for attempted murder, but he was not. The charges were dropped, basically. He lived in Chicago until 1981 when he relocated to Texas.
Great.
He was arrested December 10th, 1981. So shortly
even
after
help
he got to
yourself.
Texas, they were like, hey, yo, bro, come on.
Mm-hmm.
He stabbed a 14-year-old boy. He was arrested and sentenced to 5 years for causing bodily injury to a child in Galveston for aggravated assault.
Mm-hmm.
He pleaded guilty in 1983 and was given a 5-year prison term. So he later was extradited to Chicago to face a murder charge in the death of a young boy named Donald Jones. So rewind to 1981 when he was still in Chicago before he moved to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He decided to find and kill the 13-year-old boy that had molested him when he was in the children's home, but couldn't find him because the guy was in jail. Yeah.
Where he belonged.
Where he belonged. Instead, he met 15-year-old Donald Jones and decided to kill him instead. Jones was drowned in a quarry. David was originally found unfit to stand trial and was held in mental health facilities.
So when are they gonna connect that? He stabbed his friend. He literally ran over somebody with a moped, or there was an incident. A moped was involved. He was locked up in Leavenworth. He told not to let him out.
He stabbed a boy.
He stabbed a boy and he stabbed a girl. Wait, no.
No.
He stabbed a boy.
Yeah, he stabbed a boy
Before
in Texas.
before
Yeah.
he stabbed, and then he went to Texas and stabbed some more.
Yeah, so he stabbed his friend, got off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, rewind.
No, he had 3 years.
He killed the boy in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Served those years, comes to Chicago, stabs his best friend, but he gets off those charges. Isn't actually charged for that.
Right.
Then before going to Texas, he drowned a boy in a quarry.
Mm-hmm.
And then once he got to Texas, he stabbed a 14-year-old boy.
He got 5 years.
Yeah, he didn't kill the boy, but he did stab him.
Well, I mean, isn't that enough? Do we have to wait till we get to that?
No, but I mean, it's not like at this point he doesn't have bodies on his hands though, because he does.
He got hella blood.
He spent more than 10 years in the Cook County criminal justice system waiting disposition of the murder charge. So for most of that time, he was confined to the Illinois mental health facilities because they, like I said, they saw he was unfit to stand trial. In May 1994, he pleaded guilty to the murder of Donald Jones and was sentenced to 35 years in the Illinois Department of Correction.
Mm-hmm.
So after the hospitalizations and around a decade in jail waiting trial, when he did plead guilty, yes. So he received credit for the 12 years he was held.
I was praising y'all. Now you done went back bad.
Yeah.
You should have been like, no, now we got this little stuff on top.
No. He received credit for the 12 years he was held, and he got time off with good behavior.
Mm-mm.
So of the 35 years, he only served 17.
Okay, so what I would like to say, and this is just my opinion. I know that I'm going, but I would like to let all law enforcement, judges, attorneys, anybody that's on the jury, anybody that has to decide anything, when they are in jail, of course they're going to behave well. Of course.
They want to get out.
No, it's not even about wanting to get out.
They ain't got nothing else to do.
They don't have anything else to do. If you're in jail and you're behaving badly, what happens to you? You get beat with some batons. You get put in the solitary. You lose your TV. You lose
Yep.
your commissary.
So you have no.
Hell yeah! All you're gonna do is act good. Of
Yep.
course, I'm gonna act good. Because if not, it's gonna be even a worse for them.
Yep.
They have no choice but to be good for the most part.
Ain't got no choice but to be patient.
So this good behavior. Oh, we're gonna let him out on good behavior. Everybody gonna act good. Stop being
Stop it.
dumb.
Stop it. So whatever. Altogether, he only served 17 years
Ridiculous.
and was released in 1999. Now, what's crazy is the prosecutor had asked that David be kept incarcerated, but under the law at the time, he was eligible for early release. And David wrote a 5-page letter to the Illinois DOC asking not to be released from prison.
I don't understand how they didn't decide that the drowning of that 15-year-old was heinous. When he told y'all that I really was looking for the person that molested me, I couldn't find him.
So I
And
killed
so-
this other teenage boy.
Because what, he reminded me of him, or because I just had to get somebody? And y'all like, you know what? Yep, that's the one who should get out early.
And this is, y'all found this out after he had already stabbed another teenage boy.
Yeah.
So whatever. The spokeswoman for the DOC at the time, a woman named Dee Dee Short, she said he did not meet the criteria to be placed in any other kind of facility. He was released in June 1999 with no place to live. He was denied placement at a halfway house. And
So
so
they're just gonna put him out on the public.
Yep, they just put him out on the street. So, after living in homeless shelters and cheap motels, David moved to Oak Park, Illinois in 2000. In 2001, David hit his friend Anthony Major 6 times in the back of the head with a metal pipe.
What I want to know is, how did he afford Oak Park?
It might have been different in this
In the 2000s?
time.
No, ma'am. Section 8? No. I don't think. Maybe.
And so he was charged with attempted murder, but was not prosecuted because Anthony was an ex-gang member and decided not to pursue persecution. So he got off on that as well. And then he
I
decided.
would like to say, though, this is the actual they don't need the defendant to pursue prosecution. He's out here doing bad stuff. This man was already locked up for murder. We don't need you to agree with us that we are going to prosecute him for his bad behavior, but we're going to let it go because he was an ex-gang member. He was doing us a favor? Come on now.
So, whatever. At this point, David goes, fine, I'm moving to Hammond. In 2003. On December 12th of 2003, he gets somewhere and is never there long.
Clearly, because he's so busy.
He was arrested for the strangling death of James Regani. He was 16, and they found his body encased in concrete in David's home. So in this rental home he was staying in, he put this young boy's body in the concrete in the basement. He later was also charged with the murders of Michael Dennis, who was 13, and Nick James, 19. They both were also wrapped in plastic and encased in concrete.
How did they discover that, I wonder?
It was something where somebody had last seen him, because like basically he would lure the boys with like promises of alcohol, marijuana, like, oh, I'll give you a place to chill, to kind of like have a good time or whatever.
But I mean, how did they find the bodies in the concrete? Like, can dogs smell through concrete?
I don't know, but they said they weren't like completely in the concrete. They were like haphazardly, like he didn't
know how to do it right.
I guess.
Body wouldn't sing.
Well, they didn't teach that in the military.
So he was arrested and charged with the murders of all 3. And they said that, so he took a plea agreement, and so he would serve 3 consecutive life terms in segregation for the crimes. They thought that, the defense attorney thought that he was unique in the fact that he was remorseful for the work that for the stuff that he had done. We know our client is in agreement and wants to be isolated for the rest of his life. He believes he has sacrificed his ability to interact with other members of society.
Well, he's been saying it. He's been saying
He's
that
been saying it.
From, what was the year, 1980?
When in Germany?
Yeah. Well, that was, hold on, 74, so 77. He's been saying it since 1977. And finally someone saying maybe we should listen to him.
Yep. And so, after he's arrested, he starts to give more information in regards to the boy that he killed in Germany. And he says that he actually awoke in his room to find a boy he had befriended named Jimmy sleeping naked on top of him. David says he too was undressed, and that the scene of it upset him. And so a month later, he and the boy went for a moped ride in the nearby forest. Using a knife, he led the boy deeper into the woods. He tied the boy to a tree and beat him with his fist and then a board. Quote saying, "I never told anybody the truth about that night because it was a sad, bad thing. He was a very good boy. He did not deserve what happened to him on that sad night in May." He says that he was angry with himself because he did not know what to do for the boy now. So he picked Jimmy up, took him deep into the woods to hide him, and after about 10 feet, Jimmy died in his arms. He said he then put leaves over him to hide him and then left the woods. But what's crazy is, he says that, he woke up, saw this scene, and it upset him. But he had already promised himself nearly 7 months earlier that he would kill Jimmy when the boy had grown out his hair. And so after he had killed Jimmy, he covered him with leaves. He says that he thought to himself at that moment, so 7 months earlier, he says, "I thought to myself at that moment that when Jimmy gets long hair, I'm going to kill him." And he says, when I killed Jimmy on that day, Jimmy had long hair. Like, just his mind process was just off.
All over the place.
And let's also roll back to you woke up, because to me, I feel like that's kind of a cop out and a lie.
Yeah.
That you don't know how you got in this situation in this naked
But
child.
you have to think, so, because Jimmy was
13.
Was he?
He was 13.
Yeah, and so
And you're an adult in the military,
Yep,
sir.
David
you know
at the
how you got there.
time was. He
Well,
would have been
no sheer boredom.
He would have been like 19.
You know how you got there. It ain't a mystery, sir.
Yep. And so he did. This is all the stuff that he comes out, and so, he was charged with the 3 consecutive life sentences. But his brother, he actually says that he doesn't think that this is punishment for his older brother who tried to kill him twice.
Duh.
There ain't no justice being served, he said. The brother's name is Jeffrey Most. He's used to being confined, so this is not punishment for him. How many of us can say we have a free meal and a free bed? That brings him comfort. It doesn't bring them, talking about the victims' families, comfort. But Michael Dennis' family actually felt otherwise. He says he feels so much better now that it's finally done.
Yeah, probably he ain't out in the community killing other people.
That part. And so David was one of those cases where the victim's like, yeah, it's his fault. He did it. He's to blame. But also the system. Like, the system is very much so to blame because y'all kept letting him out. Kept letting him out. And it was actually Mouse that led to Indiana public officials to pursue a state amendment which required a violent offender registry for murderers. So that's how that came to play, because of David.
Well, at least something came from it that can be useful. I wouldn't call it good, but something useful.
Yep.
In January 2006, less than a month after his last sentencing, Moss committed suicide by hanging himself in his jail cell. Prison staff found a suicide note in his cell in which he confessed to 5 killings and apologized to the families of his victims. Moss was 51 years old at the time of his death.
Epstein much?
Very much so.
Very much so.
I just don't understand. He was asking to be put in jail. Do we really think that he...
Yeah, because it's like, if he was just that hurt by his crimes and stuff, I mean, we knew that he so-called had remorse the whole time, then why didn't he kill himself in any of the other times that he was locked up?
It was getting real.
Why this last one, when he's finally got what he's wanted, that he's going to be in jail for? You know what? This is me just thinking on the other side. He probably thought, yeah, I got 3 life sentences, but every other time they done let my ass out. Like, every other time. And it's not even he was trying to get out. He was trying to stay in, and every other time they let his ass out.
Well, he probably thought, I'll get it.
When he was supposed to serve 35 years. They didn't. He had spent 10 of that in the health facilities.
Yeah. Or prison justice. I mean, he was confined, or what they call it, controlled isolation or
Yeah.
whatever. It could have been prison guards was like, oh, didn't know that gate was open. My bad. Here's another quote from Boss. I never understood why I was put in there until now. But back then I thought it was for running away from home, or for taking something from the store, or for just being a bad kid. He wrote in his last passage that was, like many others, containing misspellings or grammatical errors. And I know I was not retarded, but when I left there in 1967 to go to the children's home, I think my mind was a little off.
So he's talking about his time in the psychiatric
Correct.
home.
Now, I just don't understand why he didn't equate setting his brother's bed on fire to why he might be the.
Now, the thing with that is, I don't know, like that stuff as far as like the mom and the brother saying that, they didn't say that stuff until after he had went to trial for the last murders. Like that's when that stuff came out. Where the brother's like, I remember you did this, and the mom was, because like they said, when the mom took him to the psychiatric ward, she didn't mention that stuff. So part of me, because I don't know how much younger Jeffrey was than David, but part of me makes me feel like, did it really happen? Did the mom make it up? Because she also had some issues. What, did she make it up and she said it so often that the little brother began to believe it? Because why would he admit that the first person he hurt was the guy that he choked for no reason, instead of saying the first person I hurt was my brother when I tried to drown him
or set him on fire?
I mean, it doesn't say that the brother was in the bed. It just said he set the bed on fire.
I mean, that has to be a very clear image. You set my bed on fire. What does that mean?
But I'm just saying, like,
talk to Freud.
Why would he not admit? Like, I don't know. I mean, but we've talked about how they keep some stuff to themselves.
Yeah, and I feel like he isn't. I don't know.
But I do know that, like, this is like going back into that whole talk of like people's upbringing and how it affects them and stuff like that. Being put into this psych ward where.
So did they say that he did the squirrel thing after?
The brother, yes, the brother says it after.
And he says he remembers him being molested.
Yep.
After.
Yep. All of that stuff comes out after the fact.
Need to see this brother. Did they do any interviews with him?
I don't know. I think so, because like he did have the one statement where he was like, "This is not justice. This is not punishment for him." Blah 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 blah. So I don't know, but I know that being put into a psych ward by your mom, where everyone at the psych ward said they didn't see any issues with him,
and then he was what he felt was molested.
Yeah, then you go to a children's home where he was molested. Whether it's the same age or whatever, like the boy wanted, the boy wanted something that he didn't want to give, and then you use something that I'm traumatized by. You say that if you don't, then I'm going to tell people you were in a state institution, knowing that there's shame in regards to that, because I didn't, like, at that age, I don't know why I was put in there. Like, maybe it's because I was a bad kid or because I ran away, whatever the case may be. So then as soon as you get in the children's home, you're molested by a teenager. And so as we see throughout his life, he attacked teenage boys.
And it seems like because he didn't have any kind of power or control over his life, this was kind of like my control, my dominance.
And I think part of it is like, I think that experience may have, because he was at a
impressionable age for sexuality.
Exactly. And I think that then put some thoughts in his mind that he was extremely ashamed of. And that's why when he woke up and him and the boy were both naked, he didn't know how to respond to that. So it's like, okay, I'm going to kill him. And then, you get released from that and you go somewhere, and like everything was with the teenage boy. You went to find the boy who molested you when you were a kid, who now is a grown man. But you find that you can't get to him, so you replace him with another teenage boy. But
the only person who wasn't in the whole list of things was friend.
Yeah, but he didn't kill him.
Right. He wasn't out to do that.
Yeah. because we know when he wants to kill someone, he will.
Mhm.
But yeah, we do have the actual suicide note that he left.
It was a pretty drawn out letter. You could tell he's had some sense of remorse in the letter. So it starts by saying they were good, non-violent, innocent young people who did not deserve to die. None of them did anything wrong. They had nothing I wanted except for them to be my friend, and they still took nothing from me. But I still killed them for no reason. When he hung himself in his cell, he took the pains to explain everything. So basically, when he admitted to the other killings, he said, the day after the Hammond police came to my home on Friday, September 19th, 2003, I decided to leave for someplace unknown. I wasn't running to keep from being punished because I always knew I should be destroyed and killed like they sometimes do a wild animal that escapes from confinement. For I know how to punish myself, and I only left the day to punish myself for the shameful, evil life I've lived, and because of the embarrassment I will cause the people who knew me and allowed me into their homes. My greatest fear of suffering was for pain, sorrow, and grief the parents will feel when they learn that their loving sons were gone. Like their sons wanted to live and enjoy life, I too wanted to live, but I also knew that I deserved to die. And so I left to a place to commit suicide and drove about 600 miles from Indiana. At the same time, I know I didn't have the right. I wanted to see more of the beautiful scenery in America before I die because God did an excellent job in creating the country we live in. And even though I was traveling across America, I knew I had no right to be there or anywhere. So I pretty much stayed to myself and away from other people. My 5-page letter had nothing about how I murdered them, but I only wrote about how I was the most evil and horrible person in the world and should be destroyed. Before I left to come to Indiana, I made a deal with myself that I would come back and take responsibility for every evil act I committed in life, including the 3 murders in Indiana. And then right before the trial or right after I testified in court, I would do the right thing and kill myself because I wanted my trial to be for the families and I didn't want them to wait long for justice they desired. For if their sons are not alive, then I feel I should not be allowed to live either. And I also have felt this way. My mother has been hoping for my death since I was a child, and it's hard at times to understand why she just didn't drown me in a bathtub when she was giving me a bath because she hated me all her life. That is sad.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people hate me, and they have the right because I've done some really bad and evil things in life. P.S. I was hoping to clean the rest of the walls in my cell 2 days before I killed myself, but my back was in too much pain, and I am very sorry I didn't complete the job. And that was the end of his letter.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's a sad existence.
that is
Yes.
very fucking sad.
Yeah. Like,
Mhm.
you know, we always want to pay respect to the victims because they are that. They are the victims. David Mouse is not a victim. There are plenty of people who have shitty parents who don't grow up to be murderers.
And predatory murder.
Predatory, exactly. Yet hearing anybody talk about how they feel, you know, the relationship that he had with his mother and why she's been wishing for my death since the day I was born. Like to hear anybody talk like that.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes you almost kind of wonder, like, if you're like back in time, and maybe he didn't have to live with them so long. Like, would his life have been different?
If the dad would have never left,
or if
his
the dad
would
had
have took
taken
him.
him,
Yeah, or this uncle that he went to go work with as a young
where
adult.
it seemed like he was having a little bit
everything
of success.
was fine until he crashed the car.
Yeah.
But he was a teenager. That stuff happens.
So it just makes you wonder, like, did his life really the shoulda, coulda, wouldas?
The shoulda, coulda, wouldas.
But again, those victims, my God.
There's young lives taken way too soon.
So many young lives. And the trauma, like, to be stabbed that way, what your last little moments of your life were like.
So this concludes today's episode. So if you have any cases you want to hear about, if you have any constructive criticism, some feedback, a shout out, a case you might want to hear, let us know. Email us at murkinthemidwest@gmail.com. And also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Bye.
Bye.